Hello, everyone. This is Yonks with REtoken, the Real Estate DAO, and this is a much anticipated and much talked about working group here, a legal working group where we're going to go into our operating agreement. So let's actually go take a look at the agenda here that we've got for the working group. And I don't actually have a whole lot of agenda broken down because we've got a operating agreement that we've got on GitHub, and I'm going to make this bigger here so that everybody can see it. And let me actually, before I do that, I want to show who we've got on here with the REtoken core team today. And thank everybody for popping in here. We've got myself, Mrs. Yonks, Crush, and Blur's Day. And Crush was saying that Poopster may be joining us here shortly, but if not, he had. Oh, and there was Dax. So, hey, thanks for popping on, Dax. You literally are just catching the introduction here. So, uh, we are getting right in. We've got only 45 minutes left until our upcoming community call number 11, I think is what we're up to. So let's take a look at the agenda for our, well, I already mentioned that I don't really have a whole lot of agenda. Some of the backstory, though, as far as the operating agreement, this is something that we've talked about, as I mentioned already, more than a couple times. And we really need to finalize on an initial draft of that. An operating agreement is one of the legal documents that whenever we open up a legacy bank account at a normal bank for doing banking stuff. We do have a crypto wallet and a treasury. I'm not going to go off onto that topic yet, and we'll probably have a section in our operating agreement on that. So the reason that we need to get this finalized, again, like one of the tasks that Amy on our core team is looking into is seeing what bank accounts are Wyoming DAO friendly. And then the other thing here, and this is this paragraph right here, and I'm going to just read this. This is necessary as soon as possible so that we may open a legacy bank account, which I was just talking about, for receiving our American made Solar Prize winnings. Now, that was our flag, and it still is our flagship project, Tokentown, Colorado. Not going to talk about Tokentown, but in anticipation of that, and we won't receive a determination on the American-made Solar Prize until I think the second week of December. So that's like today's November the 3rd, so probably 4 to 6 weeks from now, probably on the latter side of that. So we've got one of the things that we've already agreed upon is that we want to be open and transparent. That's one of the founding principles that we have over here on our Genesis proposal is right here, full transparency. So one of the things that we did, we've got and let me make this a little bit bigger over here. So this is the REtokenDAO repo, and I'll just click on this here so that you can see that, github.com slash REtokenDAO. And we've got a repo here called legal, and we have, that's the folder, and the only thing that is in the folder here on GitHub is the operating agreement. So making this a little bit bigger, and right now there's not a whole lot of stuff in the operating agreement. One of the things that we do have in here is the notice of restrictions on duties and transfers. This is something that the Wyoming Secretary of State wanted to be included in a supplement agreement talking about their Wyoming DAO LLC. So, and this is another section that I added here that talks about the withdrawal of members. Also included a link to the Genesis proposal and wanted to take a moment here. This has got the RIP-1. That stands for REtoken Improvement Proposal. Improvement proposals are a very common thing in decentralized autonomous organizations, including the granddaddy of all DAOs, Bitcoin itself. They have BIPs there, Bitcoin Improvement Proposals. So the Genesis proposal, that was a concept that I borrowed from Bankless DAO, which is a well-respected DAO. And the Genesis proposal was our first proposal that we have on Snapshot. Now, one of the things that I thought would be kind of redundant is including a lot of the stuff that's in our Genesis proposal within the operating agreement. Now, this is something that we may want to include at some particular time. I don't know if it's necessary right now to potentially amend and or adopt that, and then we may, as a voting proposal process goes, integrate that. But right now, I think just having that as an addendum, but I'm gonna pause and just let everybody else chime in here what you think. I mean, should we just copy the stuff that we've got from the Genesis proposal in there, or I mean,
How do you guys feel about making it Appendix 1, and then if people want to read it, fine, and then if they don't, fine. But that way, it seemed like such a core part of our value statement and the way we run the community that I think it's important. But I don't know that it needs to be actually in the text. Just maybe throw it in there as an appendix.
okay, cool. And one of the other things too, and I'm gonna actually take a step back here real quick because one of the things, and we're back to the Trello card here real quick, and this is something that we kind of brought up in and I think that we talked about the operating agreement at the tail end of our core team call, which went a little over, but it ended up working out fine because we wanted to get coordinate in place, which we did get some stuff on that here. So one of the things that I was communicating in the core team call on Sunday was the one of the things that I would really like to see is an operating agreement that we can actually utilize. Like one of the things, and I'm going to go off on another tangent, and this is a relevant one that will come up again in um, our upcoming community call. But we did submit the Polygon ecosystem grant request. So that got submitted here Monday morning. I believe Poopster was saying that it was already something that was spoke about. And we ended up having the grant request was for 20K, which we flagged as legal work. And one of the things that we could potentially do, assuming that we win that, and we'll have more conversation about that, but wanted to put that out there as just kind of like a FYI, and again, gonna bring that up again at the community call, but not just for the operating agreement, because one of the things, and where I was going with that, is I don't really want to see an operating agreement that's got legalese in it. I want the operating agreement to be in plain English, something that we can regularly refer to, kind of like a Bible, if you will, or one of the things I've started hearing used, and this is something that when I was on the Twitter space yesterday or the day before for ENS, the Ethereum naming service that's got the .eth, when we've used several .eths in our projects already, is that they were talking about a constitution. So going back to this, I did find a very relevant reference here from the American Bar Association, and I took a screenshot. I've got the reference here, and I can't remember if I posted this in the operating agreement thread on Discord. Kind of irrelevant, but this is something that I wanted to read here. There was a couple bullet points that I had itemized. So think of the operating agreement as the owner's manual and draft accordingly in plain English. And then the first bullet point here, the problem comes from lawyers' language and Byzantine formulations, aka legalese, that are incomprehensible and therefore alienating to business people. And not even just alienating to business people, like just if it's difficult for a business person to understand, like somebody, with high school education or maybe even a college degree, like if and one of the things that Tyler and I often refer to as our $10,000 Reg CF operating agreement, where it was 50 pages, and our Reg CF offering was literally $100 buy-in. So, like anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. So moving on to the next bullet point here, the solution is to draft operating agreements in language the members can understand and live by. So that's why that I had those bullet points there. Those were some that really, I think, kind of resonated with me, that really amplified what I was talking about on Sunday in our last core team call. So that's really kind of like the direction that I would like us to go in, and have that be a strong consideration, whatever we does happen, as far as us potentially engaging some legal expertise to get everything kind of shored up from a legal standpoint. Does that make sense? Yeah, I saw. So keeping that going forward. So going back to what we've got here, and I was just whenever you dropped off there, Crush, I was just seeing if that made sense, as far as like being intentional about having an operating agreement that's in plain English, that we can confidently update through our governance voting proposal process that we're already operating under now. So, go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to say, I love it. I think it's going to save us a ton of money on legal fees. And um, if we, I think the more clear we are in language, then the less likely we are, hopefully, to get sued, because somebody's going to say either want that or I don't want that. But they're not going to say I didn't understand that and I wouldn't have done something. The more clear and simple we can make it, the more I think we can say to people, you like this or you don't like it. That's it.
Correct. And one thing, and the way that I've started putting this in here a little bit, and I would encourage for people that do find this interesting, is actually to refer to the actual, and I've got this on this first bullet point here, is the actual law. It's actually not that complicated of a read, as far as the stuff here, and I'm just scrolling through, and I think I've read a good portion of this, and it's not like, I don't even consider the actual regulation or whatever, the bill that was passed here, overly complicated. And that's one of the things that I enjoy about Wyoming. So uh, I would encourage people, again, that find this interesting, to potentially look at that. So here's the section that talks about the operating agreement here in 17-31-108 operating agreement. So, and this is what we're doing, and it's, the operating agreement isn't even a requirement here in Wyoming. So you can see right here, may be supplemented by an operating agreement. So we're including the supplementing of the operating agreement. One of the things that I mentioned already was that Wyoming did want us to have this notice of restrictions on duties and transfers appearing in our operating agreement. And one of the things too, let me actually see if I can make this a little bit bigger here, because this is one of the things that I'm getting ready to send and that's this section right here, is the updating of our actual articles of organization. And let me show that paragraph real quick, and on the file. So this is the paperwork that I'm going to be mailing in tomorrow. I didn't have time. I actually put the date on here of November the 3rd, but I'm gonna have to change. I'll just change it right now to the 4th. Let me see if I get it. Uh, 4th. So I'll print this off and mail this in. This is where we're updating our article to become an algorithmically managed entity, instead of a member managed Wyoming DAO LLC. So going back here to the notice of restrictions on duties and transfers. This is one of the things that I wanted to add a little bit additional context of, because in the language on this, it says that we may eliminate fiduciary duties, and that's one of the things that I thought would be very valuable to put in place here, is that the expectation are that through the good faith that is, I believe, in place automatically, that there won't be any uh, as far as the fiduciary duties. So this was something. Go ahead, Tyler.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Rogi, welcome. We are talking about switching our DAO from member managed to algorithmically managed and what we want to include in our operating agreement. I don't know if you knew that or not, so that's what we're talking about. So welcome over here and pop in anytime. That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, so what I was just saying there is we this is the language as it exists the in this 17-31-104. The Wyoming Secretary of State, when we originally filed the articles for, I can't remember if it was this DAO or for the OZ Fund DAO that we filed prior to this one, but they wanted an amendment in there that said that we had this paragraph in our operating agreement. So just copied and pasted this. But one of the languages that I wanted to add is the explicit elimination of the fiduciary responsibilities. This is a Google Doc that I've had in our draft for a while, and this was a super simple sentence that I thought that we could add with a subheader here that says, "We hereby elect to eliminate fiduciary duties for all members of REtoken DAO LLC." Does everybody think that that's pretty clear, easy to understand, where we can add that to our explicit elimination of the fiduciary responsibilities? All right, I'm gonna just hop in here and click on the,
Sorry, we don't have to add in future members, do we? Or past or future, or is all members good enough?
no, I think that that's applied, and that's one of the things here in this next section, and I'm gonna create a little subsection here. What should I call this header? Because I'm gonna put this here, uh, just elimination of fiduciary responsibilities. So gives a little subheader, elimination of fiduciary responsibilities. We hereby elect to eliminate fiduciary duties for all members of REtokenDAO LLC.
Do we need to add any? And this might be more of a website thing. Do we need to add? Here's what it says, and here's what this means, or is it just it means what it says? That's it. We don't need to explain it anymore.
Well, and that's, I think, if it's not clear, then that's something that we should add. But I'm not sure if you're thinking something specifically or just generally speaking.
I just want to make this thing as super clear as possible, so everybody says, "Yes, I know exactly what this thing is," and there's no confusion at all. Like I just want to make this thing super easy to understand. That's it.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the benefits of this type of an entity, and I don't know if things will change right now. We've all,
I know we don't have time. We can keep going. I don't want to drive us off into a ditch here.
yeah, and one of the things too that wanting to include here that we don't have right now is some like our, because let me, we had already talked about including our the Genesis proposal in an appendix. Let me do that right now. So I think I'm on the, so I'm going to put it below version history, and we'll call this appendix 1. I think I had this referenced right here earlier already. Yeah, so Appendix 1, Genesis proposal, and then I just copied and pasted all of that. Now, should I remove the, or just make a reference here in this instead of the external link, or just leave it like there? I'll just leave it like it is. So, historical retoken context, I think that this can be removed. I had already briefly spoken on, and let me see what this tab is here real quick. I think this was the card that was on a roadmap. Yeah, this has almost nothing in it. So this is something that I wanted to show here real quick. This is one that I believe is on open law, and I don't know when the time frame was that this was created, but this one has a lot of legalese on it here. One of the things that we don't have in here, and that's not in, I think we have another proposal in Snapshot that talks about that, is our, and it doesn't specifically, it's referenced in this one, but putting in the Gnosis safe details in the owners of the existing Gnosis safe. And this is one of the things, and I don't want to have scope creep on the operating agreement call, but it is something that we need to get some parameters defined around as far as the updating of the Gnosis safe and as far as the owners or when like um, so that's something, but on going back to my thoughts on this, I think that's a good portion of this, like the Gnosis safe multi-sig details in here, and then also the owners, and we've got the policies. Let's see.
Hey, I just saw that we had Michael's jump in. So we're talking about our operating agreement in Wyoming and what language we want to include on that. So make sure you're watching the stream. That's what we're doing. So I'm glad you're here and just jump in with any questions.
So going back here, let's see. Um, should put in, so I don't, I'm going to just delete this historical retoken context. This was more just for, and let me see if I have any details on this Trello card.
Um, is it worth mentioning to just have an external link of who the current signers are versus having them in this agreement? So if they change, don't have to update them all the places.
No, because I think that should be something that we have in our. I absolutely think that having the signers in a centralized location on this, because again, this is something that we're going to like be providing to the bank and having it
Yeah, yeah, okay.
because that's the thing, we don't have it listed anywhere else. And like I mean, I showed you where we have it on Snapshot, but again, if we change it, then we'll go through the same type of proposal process, and then that, as far as like from a workflow documentation, because that's the kind of thing too. The better that we have like procedural processes documented for how to do things, the easier it will be for maybe somebody to down the road if we aren't the people that are running the helm down the road.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I was just nuking this whole section here, and I was going to put in here I think I've already got that on my clipboard. Treasury management, and let's see. I'm going to take out this, don't need that section. Multi-sig signers, others.
You said we need to have a policy about how to change those out. That's what we're going to talk about in a later call.
Yeah, that's something that we can talk about in a later call. Like right now, just trying to get some of. So while I'm looking at this, what are some other things that we need to have in here for this initial draft where we can be like, this is an integral part of running the DAO today, and like I don't know if it'd be helpful to have. Go ahead.
Some standard language that's in a lot of contracts is this DAO is governed by Wyoming law. If anything in here conflicts with Wyoming law overrides, or I can get you the exact language on that. Then that's important. Severability is important. And if I'm trying to think of the third one. Yeah, governing law, severability, and overrides. If anything changes in the future that makes something invalid, then that's the new governance.
Yeah, if you have some verbiage on that, think that that's something that we could add at a later update. Right now, we've got 20 minutes left, unless you got something that I can copy and paste in here.
Yeah, let me finish some of this.
One of the other things that I noticed that we don't have in here, and I'm gonna bring this down, is going to our Discord channel, and I'm gonna get a screenshot here. And by the way, for those that are participating, we do reward participation in our working groups, and that normally the reward distribution rate is 25 retoken per hour of participation in activities. So just as an FYI, and we'll likely be doing an airdrop for this working group here later this week.
And
So
Rogi, and if we don't have your wallets, DM those to me, Mrs. Young.
So this is the voting and proposal channel that we've got. I think just copying the language in here. Let me close this out. From here, and this could probably be modified slightly. Um, Let me just get this on the clipboard. And make this bigger here. And I'll put that section. So we've got the governance process Well, we've already got that referenced here in the this other section, so that would be redundant now that I'm looking at this. And yeah, so that doesn't need to be included. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and save this. What does anybody have any other thoughts of some stuff that needs to be in? Are you still looking for that there, Tyler?
I'm in a legal document right now, kind of making notes of things that we should probably add in. So there are a couple things that, and again, we can table this, but the term of the company should be perpetual unless we wanted to have a defined end date, and probably a dissolution if we don't want to be a DAO anymore, or because we want to be something else, or we want to just dissolve because we just want to. What that looks like. Is there a process for expelling a member for whatever reason? Um, I I can make a list of all the stuff, but I don't know if that's any of the stuff that we can decide quickly.
It didn't sound like any of it was stuff that we could add in quickly. And I think that some of that is covered automatically under the just the state law. And one thing that, and I don't know if we should include this right now, like our registered agent. I mean, we've got it on the screenshot here. You know, again, that's stuff. So it seems kind of redundant if it's in the articles of organization that we need to also include it in our operating agreement.
We might not need to. It's more of a, I'm just thinking through legal contracts I have either written in or signed before, and just what I normally throw in there. Oh, yeah, snapshot first, and then arbitration, and
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Rogie. That was definitely something. I've got some tabs where I was looking at that right here, like what is this one? The mediation, the ideal way to resolve block disputes in the blockchain crypto space, and was looking at let me see, Claros was another one that I was looking at, and the one that I guess that it seems that gravitating internationally on is the Singapore um, Convention on Mediation. And I think that that framework is still kind of being developed by the global, you know, United Nations and stuff like that. But Claros was one that Mrs. Yonks and I have had some side conversations about, and I don't know if anybody's familiar. I actually just, and this was a fork of the Aragon, because I believe Aragon has something like that, but I just actually on One Hive earlier today. They have that's the Aragon fork. I guess they call it the Keeper. So all of those are pretty preliminary. Claros, I think, is the biggest one. So I added that section here, and thank you for bringing that up because that was definitely something that wanted to include here on this. So should I just call the header disputes or dispute resolution,
either one's fine. I think disputes are good, and
or maybe both disputes, dispute resolution?
How did you make it?
So, like, and I don't know if we have any, uh, all disputes should first be attempted, all disputes should be attempted to be resolved within the DAO community prior to involving third parties.
Can we change that to must instead of should be? Because people are like, well, I don't want to. First would be like, they you have to do it this way first, and then
Is this verbiage? This seems all disputes must be attempted. All dispute resolution must first be dispute resolution must first be attempted within the DAO community prior to involving third parties. Um, well, yeah, and then like I think it's what is it, non-binding mediation and then binding arbitration.
yeah, we should put that by participating in this DAO, you're waiving the right to jury trials because that would just bankrupt us if somebody just sued us for whatever. Well, it's pretty standard. I mean, anytime you do any terms of service for anything, brokerage accounts, car sharing, Airbnb, anything, they always throw that in there saying by using it you can't sue us. So people are always threatening to sue. You can say, but by participating, you already waived the right to sue. So maybe our DAO could be the new metaverse.
No, we've got too much to do with the tokenization of the real estate to take on the metaverse and Zuckerberg's. So here was the language that used disputes, dispute resolution. Dispute resolution must first be attempted within the DAO community prior to involving third parties. In the event of unresolved disputes, next course of action is non-binding mediation. Final course of action is binding arbitration. And I think that that's good enough for now. And then what was that thing that you were talking about? Somebody, Tyler, or somebody else?
I said by participating in this DAO, you are waiving your right to a jury trial against the DAO or any of its members. So if in the case of being very explicitly clear of saying if you want to have the option to sue us, don't get involved with us in the first place. Like the end, we're for fun. I don't want this to, um, you know.
In any class action.
Oh yeah, that's good. We have class action too. Individual binding arbitration. No class arbitration, then no class action lawsuits.
In any class action ambulance chasers, lawsuits. I think that that's normally those are specific. I mean, it's just adding some additional parameters within our operating agreement.
So right now, REtoken is has zero value, and it may never have any financial value. So some of the stuff is kind of irrelevant. But what we're trying to figure out is if we shift in the future to things that have financial value, then we're going to be governed by securities laws, and then we're going to need to redo this anyway. So right now, we're just assuming that those tokens have no financial value and kind of going from there.
And we will be during our upcoming community call, and we only have a few minutes left for this session, and our community call is going to start 15 minutes after the hour. We're going to have a small break and then hop on StreamYard, and then the live stream is going to kick off. But one of the things that we're going to be putting on the roadmap here is our regulation crowdfunding, and we just had that fairly recently pass unanimously the snapshot proposal, where we're going to roadmap a regulation crowdfunding offering for quarter 3 of 2022, which is super exciting. And as Tyler said, then we're going to have more legal involvement when we finalize our regulation crowdfunding offering. So let's see here. I added. Let me take a look at this preview. So here's what we've got. Uh, Changes that we made. Notice of restrictions that was there. This paragraph is copy and paste from Wyoming. This is one that we added. Elimination of fiduciary responsibilities. We hereby elect to eliminate fiduciary duties for all members of REtokenDAO LLC. Withdrawal members had this in here previously, but it's basically saying REtoken is for fun, and we've got the link to our, and we added the entire Genesis proposal as Appendix 1 down below. This is the paragraph we just, or the section we just added, disputes, dispute resolution, and it didn't put in, probably, let me fix this, because I think I had a bulleted number list, so let me take this off. Go back to the number list. So there we go. By participating within this DAO, you are waiving your right to a jury trial in any class action lawsuits. Treasury management, and that was copy and paste from another proposal. Version history. So is this something, if we put this as a version 1.0, we can put forward as a proposal, and this will be our initial operating agreement that we can again vote on through the voting governance proposal process that we have.
Can I add in the waiver stuff and the other stuff as a proposal, or do you want that to be version 2?
Yeah, let's add that to an upcoming thing, because like we also have the Polygon ecosystem, and I do want to talk about this here real quick. And this is just to plant a seed. WACIO, which is an association. This may be something that is worth exploring, and we'll have a lot more opportunities to have more conversation on the whole legal thing if we get this Polygon Ecosystem DAO grant. WACIO, the WACIO is a nonprofit organization established in 2018 with the goal of enabling decentralized, and I'm going to just open this in another tab here to kind of like show everybody here the DAO coverages that they have. So I don't know what this would provide, but just being in this type of a consortium or association, I think would put us in some good company. If we could get listed here, that would be fabulous. So we can have more conversations about that, assuming, or if we get the legal grant. But circling back to this, does anybody have any final thoughts on this? I'm good with calling this a version 1.0, and I will be personally voting yay on this proposal. And this is something that we'll briefly talk about on the upcoming community call as well, but just kind of to recap the work that we did here during our legal working group today.
Great job, babe. I love this.
Absolutely. And this is something, one of the things that, assuming we do get legal guidance on this, I think that we should stand firm on our desire to keep it transparent here on GitHub, but also, that's one of the things of having this in plain English. We can absolutely update this, and that's where we'll send it through the proposal process, and we'll. Um, yeah, so I definitely want this to be something that we can update, and it should be something that we update. I mean, we've got like here, these people I'm expecting to change over time, or maybe even more immediately, and that's conversations that we can have, and then when we get a bank account, and one of the things that we might put on here is our EIN. We already have an EIN, but that's not something that I felt necessary to put on here right now. But we'll also have more conversations with attorneys, as we become a more mature DAO. So yes, absolutely, Poopster. Yeah, and that's one of the things that is that I'm expecting will be not necessarily a change management process, but more of a governance voting process, and that's where we can work on getting more. Like we just recently have our retoken on Gitbook here, and this is something that I still have to get the C name updated, but like having just more documented processes. And I don't know if that's something that we would want on our docs Gitbook repo, but just having that type of information, as far as like how to do this or that, and then like you said, some type of control or versioning or whatever you want to call it. Absolutely. So let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the trigger on this file here. We're on the hour, and we've only got a few minutes, 15 minutes till we go live. Go ahead, Tyler.
I was gonna say, hey, don't forget to DM me your wallet. I don't think I have it on my list.
Who are you speaking to?
Michael, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Or no, it's we don't. So if you want to, we award token for these working groups. Once you've been on one, we keep it on the list. But I don't think I have it on my list. So if you want token for this call, then just make sure you have your wallet.
Yeah, most of us use MetaMask, and you can add the contract so it'll show up there on, and our contract is on Polygon. All right, let's see. Updates done during legal working group number one on, it's got the time. Commit changes. Will do one additional update with link to official snapshot proposal once that has been created. All right, well, I'm committing this here. Again, we'll talk about this briefly during the upcoming community call, and that's like in 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this to a close. And that's a different place and time. That's a live stream. Those people on the core team that'll be participating on this, I'll be on StreamYard in just a minute or two. I'm gonna go grab my double IPA that I promised myself after I actually got the work done. So I know, and it's some Odell's. Yes, yeah, my yeah, Crush said that she would help with that, and that's another thing too that we've got. So everybody gets a POAP. Thanks again, Poopster, for I've got a little trauma from some frustration, but that's another conversation on the POAP scene. But thanks for getting those for us. I'm super pleased. This operating agreement is something that we've been talking about for weeks on end, and I'm glad that we've got something that we can confidently take, to to print off to the bank whenever we, are working on that. And but we've got to hop off of here. We're kicking off the community call number 11 here in a few minutes. Everybody, super excited with all that we've got going on, and I will catch up with you on the live stream here momentarily. Yes. Do you have a, unique claim code per person, or I don't even know what you've got? Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. I think with this audience, I'm comfortable giving it out here. Retoken like LWG, like legal working group number one, and that's minting with the secret word in the POAP. Let's see. I just got a
It says sorry, reach its limit. Did you mint 20 or how many did you mint?
well, we can figure that out. I'm gonna go grab my beer. I'm stopping recording here right now. All right, we'll catch up. We'll catch up on the for the what's it called, the community call here.